Now good? Yep. Hi, everybody. We're just going to make sure we don't have a couple more left in the lobby, and we'll get started in just a minute. I'm actually shocked by the turnout, so that's good to know that. Thank you to everyone who got the word out. If I don't know you, I'm Anthea Geniotis. That puts me over, I'm the Director of Development Services, so I'm over planning, zoning, historic, building, and the folks at Business Tax and Licensing. This upgrade also affects the Code Enforcement Department, and I'm going to go over their part too, so you guys can see how it works. Is there anybody floating out there? Or is we still have to go? Come on in. We're waiting for you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over a brief sort of overview of everything with you in a PowerPoint, and then we will stay here and answer questions as long as you have them. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. We need to talk about actually launching the system, meaning kind of there's 2 weeks in here that are going to be pretty messy while we migrate data and things. We're going to tell you how things are going to work, and then show you how the new platform works. Just so I know who I'm talking to, raise your hand if you regularly pull permits here. Okay, so you guys are already on Project Docs and the e-plans launch. That is not going to look any different to you, just so you know. If you pay a business tax in the city, raise your hand. Okay, so we have our business tax crew is here as well to help you. And then anybody who goes through any of the planning boards, historic preservation, planning and zoning, SPRAB, with applications regularly. Okay, so this is going to affect you as well then. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, I'm going to try to, look, I did the best I could with what the screens look like. The text is a little small. This is being live streamed, and we will post it online as well. But we'll do our best to help you, even though you probably can't read every last little thing. So when I started with the city, this was where we were, and this is where the team is still somewhat. So if you are in building permits or business tax or code enforcement, you are still organized through a brain that lives in this green screen. Like, there are some of you that I'm betting, the younger ones here, who have never seen a green screen before, right? This is where all of the data is currently managed for these things. Now, for whatever reason, planning is not in this green screen. Planning, historic preservation, those development applications live on an access list. So that's great fun for trying to interact between building permits and planning, right? This was the box where your paper building permit came in, and it got a stamp where we could tell who signed off on it, where it was going next. And I would walk in every morning through this door, and I would pull the permit that was in this box to see the date on the submission to know how backed up we were. That's how we did it. And then every now and then, Mr. Tobias would tell me I had to put a spare box on a seat. And that meant we were really backed up. And part of why we were backed up was because we were quite literally passing a set of paper plan sets. And when I'm telling you I'm not passing them between reviewers, okay, fine. These reviewers are in 4 different buildings. Some of them are in City Hall. Some of them are over at SOC. So if you need engineering, Patrick's here, or Elizabeth, she's over there. If you need utilities, they're over there. everybody's got to get a fire review. They get picked up and driven over to the fire station, you know. So for all of you that had been bearing with us for the last couple decades here, that's what was taking so long. One reviewer at a time, moving the plans physically between buildings. So planning and zoning isn't even in that brain, so that was a whole other thing. You had to submit in person, you had to pick it up in person, you had to go over to this little cashier, you had to pay, bring the receipt back, all of it happening very slowly in paper. So in the last year or so, we managed a full launch in October of 2024, and we brought on Project Docs. So Project Docs did a couple things. It got rid of the box of paper plan sets. I mean, some of you are still migrating. We still have some. The big projects that came in that way are going to live that way for a little while longer. They will attrition out. You still have to pay in person except for building permits, and we've got a portal for those of you who are doing building permits, but planning and zoning and some of the other items are not on that portal. So we've been getting there. This is the next step, which is eservices, which puts all of those users into one big data brain in a GIS-based system that is keyed to the property. So we will be able to tell if you have a planning approval, if you have an active building permit, if you've got a code violation, all of those things ultimately will live in the same brain, and you as customers will be able to, once we get the hang of this, we'll be able to go faster, more efficiently for you, and we think it's going to be better. I have a jazzy video. Get ready. So our expected launch date is June 17th. Okay, so we have been working on this for 2 years, and there are a series of how-to videos that are on our website. They're in multiple languages so that you can play them, you can get a hang for the system, see what it's looking for, what it's going to look like, and hopefully all of the various information we have. So I'm going to try to go over these. I know the type is small, but I'll just give you a quick look. Okay, so the goal is to launch this on June 17th. The module that those of you are using for uploading for plans and plan review and looking at your comments, all of that's happening in Project Docs stays the same. We launched that module first because, quite frankly, this was just a bigger effort with migrating data, building the applications and things like that behind the scenes, and we wanted to at least move ourselves forward just a little bit predictably. And Project Docs is an industry leader. It would work with Energov, it works with Acela, it works with a bunch. So we wanted to get that going for our building permit customers first. When this is done, all of your applications will come in online or be uploaded through the system. You'll be able to make most payments through this. We're going to be able to streamline a lot of services. Those of you who open businesses and you have to get a zoning certificate of use, and then you walk over to the other window and you're trying to get a BTR paid. Well, this new program is going to facilitate us being able to, over time, continue to streamline all of these processes. This is just the first step. So you're going to submit your applications. You can track everything. You'll be able to pay for and download your permit or your license, and you'll be able to do this from anywhere, so you don't have to drive here anymore. On our website, and there are a couple cards that are up here. There's a QR code, there's a couple signs out there. This link takes you to this landing page. This landing page will eventually have the actual go live links where you will then be able to use the new system. So right now it's a coming soon, but this is on Development Services homepage, and you can also just type in delrabeachflorida.gov/eservices and start poking around on the website now. Again, there are step-by-step tutorials, English, Spanish, and Creole, and you can create an account. You'll need a valid email address. Everything's going to work through that. There's a secure login to ensure privacy and security, and you will be using these features like completely here. So when you land, you have choices on what you're doing. And if you are submitting a building permit, the portal's going to look a little bit different than it does now. You're going to pick the tab that says building permits, and you will upload your documents there. You'll submit and track your application. The comments that you get, most of them can migrate. There are some of you that will mark up, or you use the plan sheets a lot for notes. All of that is still happening within the project docs that you're used to now. So that's going to all look the same. You will also be able to schedule your inspections online through the dashboard, and you'll be able to see who's available where and when. You will also get your immediate inspection results. Once they post, you're going to get the results emailed to you. So you're going to know if somebody made it to your job site, and if you passed, if you failed, if you've got a couple corrections, whatever's going on. This is all new now. So those of you who go to the SPRAB board, you have a site plan modifications. A lot of those are actually administrative now. Even those, you will go through here. Instead of picking the blue building permits, you're going to pick the Planning and Zoning Historic Preservation tab, and you're going to say, I'm going to go in through here. This is the type of application I have. It's going to work exactly the same way. But bear in mind, while many of our planners have been reviewing building permits, particularly the historic preservation crowd, not every planner has been looking at plans using project docs, so they have a little bit more of a learning curve as well. We're all going to learn this together. And then from there, you'll be, you've got your required, it'll walk you through that you have to attach your justification statement, your plans, all of your colors, things like that. So it should be fairly user intuitive. You will never be able to read this, but this is a little button that tells you to click on your fees, and then you get your fees are calculated and you pay for them online through a secure thing. And the system also pays your stores your payment history in your account, so you're able to check to see if you've paid, or you remember to pay, or we remember to bill you. All those things don't happen anymore. Okay, you will be able to apply for a business tax receipt. That's another tab. You'll click there and you'll say, I need a business tax receipt, or I need to do a sidewalk cafe, or I have to do my contractor registration. There's not even a fee with that, but you've got to give it to us every year, right? There's a couple things. If you have an alarm registration, we already have a Cry Wolf system that's not integrating right now, so we're going to do alarms the same way we've always done them. The alcohol licenses, we still need to work with the state in terms of it's their application, really not ours. So it's a couple little things like that we'll be working out. But generally, aside for those couple one-offs, everything here, including your renewals and your deadlines, will be through the system and through your email that you use to register. So this should increase staff's efficiency. It reduces our reliance on paper. There's a centralized tracking and accountability for everybody. Like I said, these different parts of the city now will be kind of housed in the same GIS-based brain, so it should be better. For you, you will not always have to wait for us to be here to check on the status of your applications. It's all available online. We expect faster turnarounds and things like that. You don't have to drive here and back. You can, and then we also expect that this is going to provide more transparency for our residents and our stakeholders. So what do I mean by that? Well, because this is a GIS-based system, you have the ability to look up activity on city properties. So that means you can say, well, I'm going to put this address in, and I'm going to put in City Halls, which is 100 Northwest First Ave. And I want to see if there are any outstanding or active code cases, which means your neighbors can do this too, just as a warning. So I'm going to click that, and Public Works doesn't know this, Ms. Barletto, you have so many code violations because we used our city property as test sites. Sorry about that. But so you'll be able to click on that. You'll be able to see the history. You'll be able to click on the violation, and you'll be able to read that all buildings, structures, electrical, gas, mechanical systems are unsafe. So you'll be able to be able to see what's going on. You'll be able to see when the citations were issued and when compliance is expected. So there's a lot of information that, as we move forward, I think there's a tremendous amount of public records accessibility, that this is the foundation of us building over time. We, as the Development Services Division, we have more public record requests than any other division in the city. We have people that all they do is try to find those old permits or surveys or other things that you're closing on a property, and we have to find documents. And over time, this is going to be much more accessible, I think, to everybody. We're just getting started now, so it'll take a little while, and I'm not sure, how much of the old plans and things they may be in a Laserfiche library, but the opportunity here is really great. So you can look things up through the maps, you can look things up through case numbers, other things like that. So, what is this one? So, this is an example of a certificate of appropriateness, when it came in, when it was assigned, how complete it is. And so the final thing I want to say really about this is we're going to talk about the transition. So once we're up and running and you guys get used to it and we're used to it, it's going to be great. But transitions like this are never, never easy. So the way that we are going to take all of the information that's in that green screen and move it over into this new brain and make our adjustments is that we are going to have a pause in collecting payment. That doesn't mean your projects are going to stop, but when we close business on June 9th, we're not going to take any more payments for a couple of days because we need to get off of that system, shift over to the new one. So it's important to know that they're just going to be deferred. It's not going to hold up your projects. The other thing is that if you haven't already been using any online portal in the world, there are fees attached to that. There is a credit card fee that is typically I think they're up to almost 4% now, or you can do an e-check and it's a flat rate. I think it's like $1.95. Whether you're buying something online, whether you're in our portal, whether you're paying your kids' rent in college, I can personally attest it's one of those two choices now. So that's up to you on how you want to do that. So on June 10th, the upgrade process will begin at the close of business. So the end of 9th, no more payments. The 10th, as the day closes, we start shifting all of our information over. June 11th through the 16th, we're going to have limited services. So you will not be able to easily submit for a new building permit, tax receipt, or contractor registration in that window. We have purposely done this over summer and right around the new Juneteenth holiday. I want you to know that if your staff, raise your hand. If you're here and your staff, raise your hand. They're all in the back rows, they're behind you, can't see them. Okay, so the building team, they are working over this weekend to make all of this go as smoothly as possible and to try to keep up a level of service while the brain is moving, right? They're also, I've never done this as a director, but they're not allowed to take vacation these 2 weeks while we do this. So we are going to do the best we can by you, but it is what it is. We've got to move things over. What else is going to be affected? Inspections will continue, but they need to be scheduled before June 10th. Then on June 17th, which I think is a Tuesday, everything is going to work beautifully, right? Everything is going to work. At least that is our expectation. Like I said, we are working very hard. This, just to remind all of you, this is where we are now. So we are going to work over that weekend during the transition to move new permits into the new system. It's all hands on deck. We are also going to be setting up 2 kiosks in the Development Services lobby, where if particularly for our homeowners, like those of you that do this all day long as a living, you're going to catch on quickly. Maybe you're using a similar system in Boca, something like that. But if you're a homeowner and you're going to pull that one permit that you ever pull in your life, if you need help, we're going to help you do it and work it through our system. Finally, I would just say, although we tend to have a really good working relationship with all of our customers, and I think it's built on a mutual trust, particularly in building, right? Please be patient and civil with us too. We may also be frustrated because when they don't work, we start feeling it as well. But I do think that it is a major step forward. It is long overdue. I think those of you who work in multiple cities know we were one of the last to get off the paper. So planning's coming off paper, and hopefully this is all going to work. We are here to help. Like I said, we're going to be available obviously here. You can always call us. We've got a lot of resources on our website. Up until now, if you called and had a question, I just sent you to Fernando Arosa, who is our dedicated tech person. That is all he does for the city. He doesn't run the commission meetings. He doesn't do the YouTube streaming. All he does is this system for our team. So we will, if you have a problem and we can't figure it out, he'll figure it out for us or get to the people who can. So that said, does anybody want to ask questions? And okay. So, yes, ma'am.
So, how far back are you going putting permits into the new? Say, like I used to work for Friday AC, right? But now I work for 1 hour. So, I have a problem getting in a lot of things because of it's still in the person's name that was there before. So, are you, when you do your transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
transitioning over to like 2003?
Okay, so we are only going to transition. So we're transitioning the all of the historical data, all data. It's all in there.
Even if it's not under my email or in my name?
So
Yes.
each
You wanna-
permit, well, just put your case.
Just because it's taped, do you want to come and use the microphone? So anybody at home with the same question. So now I need for that.
The email is associated on a permit by permit,
Right.
right? So if you have 5 permits with one email and another set of permits with another email, they're going to stay like that. We're not going to modify that. Okay? Is that was your question?
But there's old paper permits, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And those are in the green screen, but they don't have any of the information because we scanned it.
It's in the person that was there before email. And so I can't access some of them because it's not under my email. Does that transition?
Well, are we talking about active permits?
Some, they're not active, but they should be active, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They
Okay.
expired.
All right, let me, just because we can't hear. So, all right, so the question is, how far back are we going with migrating information? So the information that is on this green screen, right? Just keep in mind, it's not GIS based, it's based on an address, there's a PCN number, there's a contractor name associated, whatever. Right now, when you ask us to do public records requests, we will go into this green screen and we'll search your address or we'll search things like that, and we'll get the old permit numbers and we go into Laserfiche and we look to see if they're scanned yet or if they're in paper, and then we give them to you. All of that information will still be there. And so the thing is, though, is that unlike the things that will be moving forward under the system where the plans and everything are uploaded with it, we still have to go over here and get them for now. So they're in Laserfiche. And we're anxious to build a bigger library of that and all those things. But yeah.
So if any permits that never had an email associated with them, they won't have.
They'll just be done by address.
So you would have to
Yeah.
contact us, and we'll have to,
Look for them.
add you as a contact to one of those permits.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And okay, yes. Sorry.
Related, I've often wanted to go to see, I'll call them really old permits.
Mm-hmm.
Made it for the homeowners association that I'm part of.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost a lot of stuff because we had flooded paper
Mhm.
went to the city records department, put in a permit number, and as long as it wasn't too big, for free, they'd give us the whole thing.
Mhm.
Once we had a supersized one, and we paid them $30,
Mhm.
okay, to get the stuff printed out, and put it on a disk or an email and sent to us.
Mhm.
So the question is, on the other hand, we started trying to go to something that apparently was put in on the electronic system. Okay, I don't know how far along it was in the process, which is what I was trying to find out, sort of. City Record says, sorry, we don't have those anymore. You have to go to somebody else in the building, go to the building department, and we have to wait for them to release the package of data to some place, I don't know where, and then you'll be able to look at it. But it never worked. And I said to City Records, Don Moriarty, said, okay, you said it's going to be someplace else. Where? He never told me. He said, I don't know where it is, basically. So my question is, is there a transition? It's kind of related.
Mhm.
So I've used the system a lot, from Baltimore to Orlando, lots of places.
Mhm.
The basic problem we had was a single person sets up the account and puts the project into the system. Then they have to authorize other people
Mhm.
to look at it, which in many cases can be really cumbersome. The worst case it had was a contractor put in a permit, he opened the account, and then he got into legal fast and then he blew town and nobody knew where he was. I mean, he disappeared. It took 6 months for the city of Baltimore bureaucracy to assign a new person to that account. So that the rest of this, the architects, engineers,
Okay.
work on it. So, I mean, it's very cumbersome
right.
unless it's set up better.
Let's start with one before we keep going. So, all right, so the last one that you're talking about is how do I get access to my records? So yes, Project Docs is proprietary. I am submitting my building permit, and I have an owner's consent form. Every single building permit has an owner's consent form. I am the owner of this property. I am giving you contractor permission, you architect permission, that we're gonna make these changes to my buildings. That's every project. If your architect, wins the lottery and moves to Fiji, it's not that hard to reach out to one of us in building and prove that you're the owner and do a change of contractor, things like that. We can make that happen. We do not release every single set of plans to everyone. As you can imagine, some building plans, we're not going to give you the blueprint of what happens inside our police department. There's a security concern there. So we do carefully release them. So our old records, right now, you'll still see the key that's on there that this address had a building permit and this was the number. The plan set is scanned or in the process of being scanned over here. Again, we have our own records department. Don runs the public records through to us. If they happen to be something we just sent to the scanner, they're pretty good at getting back to us relatively quickly. If we say, hey, we sent you this file, it's got a big plan roll, can you do that one next and send it to us? So, because we have someone asking for it. But that is also just a temporary process. We have been scanning diligently for, I think, nonstop for 2 years, and it will eventually be on a Laserfiche library. We also did a huge, the city's historic preservation team got a grant to do all the yellow cards and put them up onto a searchable database. We're still working on that. So all of these things will get more and more accessible. If you can't find it easily, then the thing is you fill out a public records request. John doesn't do them, he sends them to us, and then we'll get what we can or what we're allowed to release. So that shouldn't change. I don't remember what else there. Yeah, I think I got it all. But, okay, let me do him in the back row.
So you mentioned that Project Docs and the eservices, if we're already submitting files on Project Docs, keep doing that. But if it's a new project, start from the eservices, or is there going to be a transition over?
So I'll talk to Fernando about I'll let Fernando answer how currently active projects are going to work. New projects, you are going to have to you're going to fill a new application out using this. Like, you've got one house going already, now you're going to do another house. The new house is going to come up through the new application, you're going to submit it that way, but you're going to see the plan review module, basically is what they call it, is Project Docs. So it's what you've been using. Now, do you want to speak to the one-offs?
All new projects will start in eServices. That is your first opportunity to apply and provide the initial documentation. For large projects, right, We don't want any of those drawings just yet. We want, it's kind of like the bureaucratic part, right? We want to have the scope of work and some basic documents. We'll create the project as created, and at some point it hooks up to Project Docs. Project Docs is strictly electronic plan review. So once it moves to Project Docs, because there are plans, they need to be reviewed. So that's when you're going to upload your plans and all the rest of the documentation for review.
And so even after June 17th, that's still going to be the process. You guys are keeping Project Docs for the foreseeable future.
Totally,
It's-
totally.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's some of what's going up now isn't gonna, like the application is gonna be this. So,
Right.
so for what's active now, I don't know, I'm gonna start calling you guys up from the back to answer these questions. So for what's active now, that's, in Project Docs, right? But like the actual record is being resulted in the old now line. How are those gonna work?
Right. So Project Docs will be integrated with these services. So as things get approved or not, it communicates back with these services. But eservices is actually the main record holder for the permit. Is what we used to call in the old times the land management software, right? And so Project Docs is just there to review and pass the review results back to eservices.
So they're active, and I don't know, Chris, you're gonna end up up here too. So they're active projects, right? They're gonna be resulted, it's gonna look the same to
Same
them,
thing.
but it's gonna start resulting in our new brain over here too.
Right.
Okay.
And we'll start uploading in the new.
Only if you have a new permit, you're gonna go to eservices.
Like an inspection or anything, that'll be.
You're gonna go to eservices, and you do all that in eservices. In Project Docs is just plans review, comments,
Yeah.
updated versions of drawings and so forth.
Relate, perhaps because I just had two categories of stuff when you used to say drawing, all the drawings that were written, and then what they called the documents folder, where you put stuff like the NOAA papers that you needed to submit for anything that
Right.
requires it. That all goes into the same thing now with
Correct.
Project Docs for you.
So I'm supposed to repeat the question because this is streaming and people at home can't hear you guys in the audience. So the question is, in Project Docs right now, you upload your plans into the plan folder, and then there's other documentation that's required for building permits into the documents folder. And is that going to work the same way? And what we're saying is that the new application will sort of guide you towards when you upload, or the new landing page, it will take you through all of those steps.
Yes,
right?
the documents and drawings stay the same. We're actually adding another one that's gonna be called the shop drawings, which have different requirements, actually more loose requirements, but it's pretty much the same.
Gary? Trouble?
With the labeling of the drawings, so you have drawings that you've submitted for a permit.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you get comments during the permit process, or after you get a permit, you have revisions. Do we have to keep the same name, even though there's been a revision to this PDF?
So-
On the field, we like to obviously add a revision one or two, but do we have to keep the
Right.
same exact name we originally submitted?
So there's already a box, and I don't know if you want to explain this into
Yeah.
the thing, that if you got comments from us and you saved your plan set down as, you know, version 2, and you showed your client and they didn't like it, and then you made a version 3, and then they said that's the one to go with. When you're uploading that document right now, you get to pick the name. It doesn't matter if you're actually, Legistar works the same way for commission, if anyone cares. So you're allowed to say that this document that's called version 3 is sheet, whatever the sheet is called, right? Say it in
So
the
there's,
microphone also.
the Project Docs accept both ways.
Yeah.
The easiest way is it naming it exactly the same. By naming exactly the same, Project Docs finds a match and automatically puts this new version as a second, third, or fourth version. Doesn't matter. If they're not named the same, there's a question on the every task you take in Project Docs, a task form comes up, and there's a question down there. Are the files named exactly the same? Yes or no? If you respond no, then another pop-up comes up, and now you can do that mapping, you know,
just say
old
this sheet
file,
is
new
that
file, one by one. But of course, you know, if you're on a project that has 80 new or updated sheets, you want to tell your architect to name them the same, because all you need to do is drag and drop and you're done. But with 80 sheets, you're going to have to go find the original, and they say, this is for them. And then find the next one and say, this is for, and they're going to do that manually. There's going to be a lot of clicking, right? So for 2 or 3 sheets, it doesn't matter. They could be called whatever. you go, you find the one that you're updating, and bring the new update to it. So it's very intuitive. It's a very simple, but you have to answer no to that question that's in the task form. Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
Is there a mechanism within the program to identify projects that are supposed to be expedited?
So I don't know if that happens on our end or a different end. We, as a city, we expedite two types of projects right now: affordable housing, and the historic ones that come in should be pulled from the dashboard first. There's 3 people in historic, so once they're full, you're waiting. But yeah, so this is intended for the way that they get assigned. It's when they're pulling them down, they should be going to those first.
How
So
are they gonna identify them? How do you
Right.
identify whether or not, just
Right.
by because the permits are in the contractor's name?
Mhm.
He identifies the owner, so is it picked up by the owner?
we
So we're talking about express permits.
yeah. Well,
So
no,
the-
not express, but like the permits that are supposed to go to the top of everybody's pile, which literally used to be a pile that we put them on top of. So it's historic and affordable housing. So we're working that out still. I mean, we know which ones are coming in as the planners, and the planners right now, the only planners that really review permits regularly is the historic team, and then like Jennifer and Michael Vinci, who just retired. So the shift is going to be that we're taking a more cradle to grave approach with building permits on the planning side. That if you had a certain planner that escorted you through planning board or SPRAB, when your building permit comes in, and that person is going to review, which we also think is going to go faster, particularly for the bigger projects, because they're going to already know. They're going to have seen it, and ultimately their job is making sure that it's consistent with what the board approved. So we will figure it out. That's the intent of it. But yes, so we are making a couple of just changes into how we are going to work internally that we think will help. So, and you first and then you, because you were up for, yeah.
This is about building permits.
This is about building permits,
Yes,
okay?
first, can the guys in the field that are doing the building, can we schedule inspections still by calling, or they need to?
Okay, so the question is whether the guys in the field can still request inspections by calling in, I guess, to Selectron. Yes, no, you might as well stay up here. I don't know all this stuff.
So we're switching to a web-based system only, okay? So you can go online and schedule your inspection there. And
I'm
now,
gonna have to teach them how to do this, that's what I'm asking.
pardon me?
I'm gonna have to teach them how to, these guys are old school.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to teach them.
They're
And
not
it's-
as old school as
and
my
it's-
guys. I can tell you right now, and they have all killed it with this stuff. So
And the
they're gonna
site
love it.
is mobile friendly, so it will work on your phone, okay? Or tablet, or whichever, okay?
And then I have one other question.
Okay.
Are you keeping all the same sub-apps for building permit, or are you going to the one universal app, like Cobra?
Chris, are we using sub apps or a universal app?
There's no paper anymore, it's an online application.
So,
If you do any business with Boynton, you know that.
Oh, yes,
So there's no notarization.
okay, so this is like
It's
the
way easier.
applications
So you're
online.
still using the same sub-apps?
it's like electrical,
Electrical,
mechanical.
Right, so you'll find all the
Electrical,
different
mechanical,
applications
under the
online.
blanket.
So
Yeah.
when you hit the apply button, right, at the very top, it says there, it's called the application assistant. You can search by keywords. So if you type electrical, you're gonna get all the different electrical applications. And then you have to pick. Mostly is divided commercial, residential, and then we have different variations of, and then specialty like generators and stuff like that. But mostly, you wanna use that application assistant and use keywords to search for the proper application. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Two questions. I'm a contractor. We just did a sign project, a sign contract. And I had some issues from Delray Beach. One was they required a 2-inch by 2-inch blank box in the upper right corner of our forms and diagrams.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else requires that. Are you gonna continue
So the
Or
reason.
the municipality, I should say. Yes.
Right. Well, I'm sort of surprised because most of the software requires a batch stamp. So a batch stamp means this is your approved set. It's going to hit every single page. For those of you in planning, I saw Roger here a minute ago. Like we're like literally putting a stamp on one sheet of your pages and saying this is your certified plan set that the board approved, right? So the batch stamp goes through to every page. So the only way for us to have a record of the final action is to have something batch stamped. Now, whether there are certain plan sheets that maybe we need to work on a smaller window to do that, that's something we can talk about. Since you've raised it, we can look into it.
So yeah, we've redesigned our stamp to take the least amount of space already.
They're getting
right?
smaller, but
Now,
they're still there.
every municipality that uses project docs uses that, and we can pick the top right corner, the top bottom left, left or right or whatever, but it's got to be on a corner, right?
I
So
don't want to redesign
Yeah.
documents for Delray Beach and nobody else.
Well, nobody
Right, well,
wants
that's
to
what I'm
redesign
saying.
their letterhead, but you
Well,
know,
we
at
have-
some point we need a spot.
we
so
made a
can
point
talk
of
about where.
doing the same thing that Boca does, so it's not so different, because it's the other municipalities just that uses project docs, right? So regardless, even if the stamp covers a little bit or gets covered by a little bit, we can still read it, we can still see it, right? But ideally, have some space over there so we can put that stamp.
Secondly, we submitted sealed engineering drawings that had the signature
Mhm.
of our engineer on it. It could not be read, as I'm told, by your software, by your computer. So it kept coming back to me, you have to get this signed. I'm looking at my document, it's signed. Then just went back and forth about 2 or 3 times before we resent it. And then they said, oh, we did get it.
So
Okay,
the
so
digital seal. or
this
the
is a
real
very
seal?
common thing.
Yeah.
A digital signature, you can look at it, but it doesn't mean it's signed digitally. You have to open, hopefully, in a good PDF application, you'll be able to see if there's a signature attached to that or not.
I saw it.
What you're not seeing is you gotta see the certificate. Did you see the certificate
Yeah.
and the hash of the
Yeah.
certificate in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I get calls like that all the time, and I don't recall if we looked at yours or if I looked at yours. If I recall, there was never one malfunction of the software. Now maybe that's the one that I wasn't aware of. Our software recognizes that, and every time that there's a problem, they reach out to me. All the reviewers reach
So I
out to
sent
me.
it in at the right time so you could read it. That's the thing.
Well, so
Yeah.
I think the important thing is that we're talking about digital signatures, right? Is that the software knows whether or not the document's been changed after it was signed or sealed. And if it has been changed, the signature's broken. So even if you can visually see it, we are getting told on the back end of the electronic version that this may not be what the guy signed, right? This protects our architects, engineers, and others, but it also means that the digital signature has to work.
Okay, so you want me to
So.
send it to as a PDF?
Yeah, the
Yeah, we always
raised
take
seal
PDFs.
and stuff like that. It has to
Absolutely.
be. It has to be signed through that,
Thank
which is it's. Now this is fun, but once it gets up and running, then it hopefully gets easier. Anybody? Yes, sir.
We're for a plumbing company here in Delray.
Okay.
Did I catch that if we wanted a plumbing inspection, we're typically working in sub-permit under GC's primary.
Okay.
If we needed a plumbing inspection done between June 10th and June 17th, it needs to be submitted prior to the 10th.
So the question is if I have an active job site and it's after June 10th when we've taken everything offline and I need an infield plumbing inspection, how can I do it or can I not? How are we handling that? I'm looking at the back row. How are we handling that?
Well, that's an important question.
Yeah.
Back there,
Pat, you want to come up? Somebody?
Yeah, so
You got to get the
what we're
mic
trying
to pick
do-
it up for anybody else.
What we're
So.
gonna try to do is, obviously, if you know it's coming up, June 9th, you schedule it for June 6th, June 16th. You know, if you have to call and cancel that, you can call and cancel that.
Try to schedule them in advance if you have anything happening in that week.
Right.
Even if it turns out you don't need it, then cancel it. I think is the first advice.
That, and then, well, you know, you can get the, I don't know, I mean, you work in Delray, so you know Gene and Sean. There are plan reviewers and inspectors. You get their email address. Everything's online. We're trying not to do this too much, but if you can talk with them individually and something can be worked out. But essentially, if you know it's coming up, schedule it. Worst case, you got to cancel it because it's not ready yet, and you reschedule it once we're up and running. All right?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's just
Okay.
that gap, I noticed that
Yeah,
gap.
Yeah,
that
no,
gap, that
it's-
3-day gap, we appreciate your patience on that. But
Yeah.
again, if you're not sure, schedule it.
Yeah.
Worst case, you can call them direct and cancel it. So
If it's the 12th and I need one for the 16th,
you're gonna have to wait till the 17th.
that's all I need to know.
Yep.
There's just gonna be a little gap, so just plan ahead.
And some of the gap is again, it's over a weekend at least too. Where we are going to be working over the weekend to try to, I mean, I'm a big believer in under promise, over deliver. So
And
here's
talk-
hoping that it's ready earlier. But
Talk to these inspectors in the field this month coming up. They know this is coming up, so if you guys know you got a insulation inspection, you're gonna have a drywall screw, talk to the guy, hey, look, I know your system's down for 3 days,
They've always
my
been
advice-
very helpful.
I got you.
I just noticed the gap. And so
Right.
When that call comes and they say, hey, surprise, but I'm gonna be able to tell them, better get it done now.
yeah,
Right,
at
and-
least schedule it.
and I do, one of the great parts about Delray is like we've got a lot going on, but we are small enough that we know each other, right? So Gene and Sean, and if you're electrical, Greg and Chaz, like we are going to work with you. We're just kind of giving you a warning, like it's going to be a little messy, and we're all going to have to just work this through. But we are trying to do it again. It's a 4-day work week because the 19th is a holiday. And we're just going to try to do as much as we can on what should be a lighter window of business. So it's the best we can do to help you all too.
All I need to know.
Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Yes, you and then the lady.
For the new system, how will this affect the miscellaneous submissions? Like, will it be an automatic, because right now we can submit for, say, change a revision,
Mhm.
we need a survey or file one. Then we get a task to submit, will it now be like an instant, we submit everything at once, or do we still have to wait to get reviewed to submit?
So the question is about miscellaneous permits and submissions. Sorry, miscellaneous submissions. There's an application that I'm assuming has been created for that. Well, they're conferring. It was a good
so
question.
In other words, when this goes up
Right.
live and running, when this goes and this is live, what it's going to be for an example of, let's say it's a monolithic foundation on a new house. You're going to have your first 3 inspections are going to be form board survey, densities, if it's a density, and termite cert. So you'll be able to upload not through project docs, but through this EPL system. There'll be an inspection with an upload. So you upload those documents. Once those are accepted, you're not going to get a batch stamp back out with those, but those inspections will be passed, and then it will release your slab inspection to schedule. Okay?
And that'll be on the new system. What about, well, this is an existing permit, so
Yeah, but
will
that's
it
still
go
permit now.
this route or?
So on the open permits, we're not going to have those. Those inspections will be in there, but maybe.
Not for the foundation situation, but for the miscellaneous, like if you have a design letter, an engineer's letter, or if
An
you have.
updated survey, a
uh,
form board, or elevation certificate, things like that.
Right,
Like a
so-
form board.
So
Yeah, but it won't. Would that inspection be in there? So it's an existing permit.
we can add the inspection.
We can add the
We can add the
inspection.
inspection. So we're turning all these documents that, they do, called document inspections, right? So you can just you create the inspection, you go back into it, you attach it, it arrives here with a status new document for us, and we have somebody throughout the day looking at
And
it.
then the next inspection will be released to schedule.
Correct.
Right. You'll be
Yeah,
able to
so it gets reviewed, passed, you get an email saying it's passed. And if it is a prerequisite for a slab, for instance, once all those 3 pass, the slab will become available, you can submit the slab.
And are the new inspections gonna be posted on, inspection time is gonna be online, or do something else?
It's online, right when you get to eservices, at the menu, there's a selection there for today's inspections. And you can look through all the inspections. They're scheduled either for AM or PM. So when you request, you can request AM or PM. We're gonna do everything we can to accommodate, right? In many cases, that may not be possible, we may be close to AM or PM, but it may not be AM or PM. But that's the window that we have.
Yeah, and if there's any, on the switch over stuff, if there's some kind of, something that's not right, or you're trying to get these documents in, we're gonna be very flexible in this, so you can email me, Dave Herbert, Robert Lyon, one of the structural reviewers. Yeah, emails, hey, look, this is the conversion, let's try to get this cleared up, and we're gonna definitely work with you guys in this transition period,
And we'll,
okay.
we'll have a page called Quick Reference. So for all those specific things that you used to do, you knew what to do in the miscellaneous page or the submission, telling you exactly where to go. Change of contractor is a new application, and the kind of stuff.
Yeah, you had a question, and then go here, and then there, but let's go with her first.
Okay, so for the program interface, for a building, for a submission for a building permit, when we upload those documents, are they restricted, locked, once we finalize that upload, so we know we can't go back in and like replace one, or is the submission blocked?
So it goes over to our side, then there's a block.
No, you cannot remove them, but you can always add more documents. So let's say first step of the permit application, right? It goes through intake review, and then let's say, a document, there's a problem, it's corrupt or whatever, right? So we'll communicate with you via email, and then you can go to the record and upload it again, or upload an additional document.
But I think the question is, once you've fully uploaded it and review has started, so you gotta think of it almost like tennis, right? If you've given us all of it and we've started reviewing, right? You could see that HVAC already gave you comments, but you haven't gotten any yet from electrical or plumbing. You can't start changing your HVAC until we've got all of them done. Then the whole thing goes back over to you, right? Because maybe they're asking you, I'm sorry, they're out there, so everybody wave at Jonathan and Carl. If they're asking you for changes, those changes could conceivably affect your structural set or something else. So it all comes over for comments, then it all goes back. And then it all comes over and it all goes back.
So that I didn't really,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, in other words, you submit everything you think you need. You haven't completed the task yet, let's say, then you could still add documents.
Yeah.
But once you complete the task, it's to us, we do a pre-screen, we see all the documents are signed correctly, all this other stuff. We assign reviewers. Goes to the reviewers, they have a 10-day business day period to get back. We're pretty good at that. We're getting
Solid.
ahead of time on that.
Mm-hmm.
Once all the reviews are complete on the reviewer side, it gets back to you. And again, you can change, remember, you gotta name the pages the exact same if they're existing pages. And I think he explained how to do.
There's two different ways to handle that. It's up to
Yeah.
you and your preference.
But you have the control over the task. Once you complete the task, you can't upload anything until you get a task back.
So it's more of a submittal instead of an open folder.
Right.
Yeah, you won't be able to go
Okay.
upload anything until you have the task back.
So, and that happens, so keep in mind, the clock ticks for your clients as well. So, you complete a task and it goes over to us, but it works the same way. Once we complete the task, you're gonna get a notification that it's your turn to take action.
Once all the reviewers are complete,
So,
it goes to
yeah.
the coordinator submits it back to the applicant for corrections. If everything's approved, it goes into what we call final processing to process out the permit.
Let's figure your
Please
fees out.
complete the task. We get a lot of
That's the
people.
big issue.
A
You
lot
gotta-
of people upload all
Yeah.
this stuff and they sit for 3 weeks and they go, "Where's my permit?" And they never completed the task.
Because the same thing works for us. We can't touch it if you haven't
we
finished
can't go in
your
there.
side of
Yeah.
it. So,
That
yeah.
happens often.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am?
We're a private fraternal organization or whatever, and we have a liquor license.
Mhm.
Occasionally, say for St. Patrick's Day, we like to open up our facility and
Mhm.
allow non-members to come in and serve us.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a type of permit that we would need to submit online?
So we're looking into that one because that's technically a state application. It's alcohol, tobacco, and I know all the good stuff. We have built it to do it, but we're not. We need to make sure that they're going to accept it that way. Otherwise, you're going to have to walk it over and we'll sign it, like we do now. But hopefully, we can streamline that a little bit. So
For now, it's still paper.
for now, it's still paper. Yes.
Do a special event.
Yeah, and well, it depends. It's not a special event necessarily if it's not outside. So there's, if you're just doing that, we can figure those out. Yeah. If you're gonna start impacting the people around you, then a different approval process.
A lot when we try and do this, but it's inside our building.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think I know where you are. You had a
What's the latest you can call in for a permit for the next day?
For an inspection, what is the latest you can call in for a next day inspection? 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock?
Tends to be 3, yeah. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
If, I don't usually file on a regular basis, so this is just something unusual to me, but if we file a permit application, Friday, for instance, are we gonna expect any delays in the next couple of weeks because of this transition period?
I mean, there's gonna be some delays. I think, like, normally we go pretty quickly. Our review target is 10 days, which is 2 weeks, basically, of 5 business days. We're usually turning everything around well under that. It's very
Yes.
rare that it goes beyond that. In this case,
Well,
we gotta move everything too, so it might be a little bit delayed.
As far as the review process is if you're getting it in,
Just get it, so it was, our contractor filed it, but he's not usually with Delray,
Mhm.
but it's for a pool resurfacing project. My understanding is it's only gonna require a final inspection, but we don't wanna start work until we know that the application itself was,
Yeah, for sure. You wanna
so
approve
this
that.
is a public pool?
a community association manager, it's a 30-unit co-op,
It's an
so it's.
Okay, so it's a public pool.
Yeah.
Not public, but.
It's,
Over
public-ish.
3 units.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
commercial.
yeah.
Yeah, so if you get it in, hopefully we get it through the review process before these 3 days. So get the permit in, so hopefully, cause it's gonna
Yeah,
go to
'cause
P
we
and
did
Z,
it
it's gonna
on
go to the
Friday,
engineers.
right?
You're
Sure what's
probably,
expected
yeah.
with the transition.
Yeah.
You'll probably be fine. I mean, we can't, notarize for the owner's consent form for you or anything like that, but so
I don't know,
assuming that
always
it's
like that.
accurate, that one will
Yeah, we
probably be
can't speak for
zipping
the
through.
reviewers, but,
Yeah.
hopefully you have everything you need and you get the permit issued,
Yeah.
and then once it's issued, you just maybe have to wait for those 3 days to call the inspection and possibly.
And that's fine based on the amount of work time I was told, I think we won't be finished till
You
after
might-
that anyways.
You might slip right between all this,
Thank you.
it sounds like. Did you have another question?
I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm already registered and I'm up to date,
Yes.
do I have to re-register in the new software package?
As like your contractor registration? No, you're good. You're registered for the year, and then next year you'll just do it through this system when you renew. Yeah.
What if I have an emergency for a permit request? Like, I'm an electrical contractor,
Mhm.
and it's an emergency. I have to
Right.
change
It
the
happens.
service.
Yeah.
So how do I expedite?
So call us probably.
Yeah, you'd wanna
Or is
talk
it
to,
notes?
so,
Yeah.
you would wanna talk to Chasler Home or to Gregory Banks. Say it's an emergency, so it's Chasler Home, HOLM, or Gregory Banks. They're our electrical inspector plan reviewers, and let them know about the emergency. In the meanwhile, see if they can work with you, get the application in as soon as you can.
Because
So,
I have to work with FPL also. isn't
Yeah.
it?
I understand, and they're
Yeah.
gonna reach out to these guys.
and we are gonna answer the phone. Like we promise, we're gonna answer the phone.
One of them will.
So we'll get you to the right person if you call and just say I'm having an emergency and everything's down, and then we'll make sure one of them gets.
Yeah, they'll
inspected.
get back to you, sure.
Real quick.
Yes.
Do you have a list of vendors of secure signature packages that you authorize? Other, you understand, say, here's a list of 5 or 6 vendors that sell these various secure signature things. Do you have a list of those that are acceptable?
I can give you some names. We don't authorize them at all. I mean, as long as they are a certification authority, we take them, right? So the names are DG Cert, Entrust, Identrust, Global Sign. Those are all major companies, and any of them, anybody calls and explain what they want, they have exactly the exact product that they need to
Right,
provide.
okay, thank you.
Anybody got anything else?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys said after the reviews are through, you can't submit anything else?
Well, so.
What about NOC?
Well, the NOC is a special, you go on E-plans and you say I
Yeah.
have an NOC,
So we can
and
see
then
the-
what that's gonna go is that's gonna go through a different system, and one of our permit techs will look at it, if it's good, they'll upload the document.
Gotcha.
But you won't be able to upload the document, but
When we get to eservices,
You'll be able to do
it's
it.
gonna go, right.
all you need to do is go to your permit and attach the NOC.
Yeah.
Once you
Yeah.
attach the
Like we
NOC,
are.
the system will flag it that there's a new document, and someone will be watching that queue. So you don't need to do much. Just put the NOC on the permit. We will see, and we'll release the hold. Okay?
Yeah. So it will get better. Like all these things will just, not a lot of time, but a little here, a little there, a little there, it adds up, you know. So, anybody else? You guys good? Thank you for coming. And yeah, we can go and yeah, I know you waited until this terrible storm is out there, so thank you.